Hey everybody, welcome to the Gapology Guys Podcast, your resource for leadership development, personal growth, and all things Gapology. And tonight we're diving into one of our favorite topics and one that's often undervalued with leaders. We're talking about creating a culture of accountability. Should be a good one, so let's jump right in. Hey Mark, how you doing?
Good, how's it going, Brian?
Good. I'm good over here. I'm excited for this topic. We've got a good one tonight. We're talking about culture of accountability. And
it's
I know you got
deal.
some good notes.
Every leader that grasps what we talk about tonight will succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were saying earlier that you've got some fires going on out there.
There's a lot of fires in Washington, Oregon, and Northern California where I'm at. Yeah.
That's rough. I feel really bad for those people. I saw some things on the news tonight about that.
We'll get through it, but we'll light a fire tonight.
Oh, true. Yeah, with accountability. Yeah, absolutely.
Hey.
We'll light a fire. But actually, before we get going, though, we want to give a big shout out to our good friend Danielle Blaney, who's one of our great advocates. She works for Best Buy. She was actually on one of our previous podcasts. And we do invite everybody to go back and watch that. Danielle Beasley at the time. So she's since gotten married, and maybe it was Gapology that created that fire and got her.
Must have been.
Yeah, but big happy birthday to her. It's exciting. She's a big fan of ours, and we're a big fan of hers as well.
Awesome.
But let's dive into culture of accountability. So we've got some good topics here, and this is straight from the book. So we've got some information in Gapology about this. And when we were looking at topics to choose this week, we're really thinking, as we're really going into the deep part of summer, a lot of times I think people sort of get bogged down and just kind of trudging through, trying to build up for the holiday season. There's not a lot going on other than maybe vacations. And so I thought this would be a good topic to talk about as we're developing our teams and our leaders that work, for us and with us. This is one of those things that can really make a big difference, especially in these times where you feel like you're sort of trudging along in these warm, hot days.
Well, the other thing we know is that in the Gapology work that we did, the top 10%, those that really stood out, the leaders that stood out, created a culture of accountability. Mm-hmm. And we also know that the leaders that were failing, they were in the bottom 10%, the bottom group. They did not create a culture of accountability. So the gap between those was significant and helped us write the book.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that we hear a lot when this topic comes up in our workshops and so forth, people sort of think about accountability through the lens of writing people up, progressive discipline, that whole end of it. And with Gapology, that's really not what we're talking about here. This is more about creating this culture where people are compelled to be accountable, be self-accountable, and then that culture then sort of steamrolls and just keeps going, and it becomes this great powerhouse for some of these winning leaders.
Yeah, it's most often the leader that is the issue, and they don't realize that. So when the team knows the expectations, when the team is held accountable for those expectations, when they know the behaviors that equal those expectations, things tend to move rather dramatically. So the leader should always carry, I always did, as you know, we worked together for years. I carried a mirror around because if I ever wanted to know where the gap was, I just needed to hold it up. And there was the gap. And when I changed, everything changed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when you look at ownership and what parts of the Gapology framework that we own, this is one of those things we really own, creating this culture. We have to do this. And there's so many elements that sort of set us up for success in order to be able to create that culture, that if we're not doing those things first, if we're not closing the knowledge gap, if we're not closing the importance gap, if we're not doing those things, it's really difficult to create this culture of accountability.
Yeah, if you step back from Gapology, which we wrote based upon a review of the top performers and the bottom performers, in the top performer group, a culture of accountability was always present. Mm-hmm. In the bottom group that didn't perform, the culture of accountability was always missing. It became the one thing that changed the difference between the top and the bottom, and which was dramatic. So picture selling the same product at the same price in the same type environment, and you've got a top 10% and a bottom 10%. The difference was culture of accountability. Culture of accountability is not a negative thing. It's a very positive thing. Mm-hmm. Are professional athletes held to accountability? Yeah. Do they have a batting average? Do they have an on-base percentage? Do they, do we measure their number of passes that were completed? Yes.
Absolutely.
And go through whatever sport you want. Whatever business you're in, same thing. Culture of accountability is about measuring and holding people accountable for, achieving the objective.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if you're in a business that's a nonprofit, there are measures there. There are things that you can do. I think just about anything that you do in life, you can measure it at some extent. And I think it's important to do that, to step back and just assess how you're doing.
Well, yeah. So the Goodwill organization just rolled out Gapology across the United States and beyond. And the one thing that they measured was how quickly they got the new product that's coming in, being donated, how quickly it came to the floor, how quickly it became saleable, changes everything in terms of the financials. So you have to know the key metrics in your organization, in your industry, in order to create that culture of accountability. They can't be, bogus metrics. They need to be very real, and they are present in our top performers. So they're very visible to see.
Right. Yeah. So if you're not real clear on your measures and, how you can tell if you're, delivering on those things, I think that's the first thing certainly to do, is take a step back and ask yourself, what can we measure? And when you're looking at this, even accountability in our personal lives, I think there's some opportunity there. Some things that that you want to go after as a person outside of work. There's some things, exercise. You and I were talking about this earlier, where I need to start doing some of that. But
I went to the gym today. Thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of our top success stories, I'm not going to mention the name of the organization, but when Brian and I got there, they had 45 metrics that they measured for the team. Brian and I walked in the door. We locked the door with the executive team inside, and we walked out with not 45 metrics, but the top 5. We changed everything by focusing on the top 5 metrics. Their business exploded from that point forward. We held the team accountable for 5 metrics, not 45, where they could hide. And I'm doing good in this one. The other 44, what are you talking about? No, there's only 5 things that really impact the business. And we ranked the 45 by their impact on the bottom line. And we said, oh, wow, these 5 are the 5 that matter. And we went after those, and it changed everything. Mm-hmm. So you have to create a culture of accountability around the metrics that matter. Additionally, you have to understand the behaviors that equal those metrics. And when you can tie the behaviors to the metrics, so when someone's not achieving the metric, those behaviors are not in place, you can correct that very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. So it's the expectation, the behaviors that are driving those results that you're going after. But it's also the priority of those things. So even within 5 things, what's the priority order of that? And does the team understand it? And do they understand how that compared to all those other things that they have to do on a daily basis? Because we all have a whirlwind of things coming at us. So how do we keep that, forefront of our minds? So do you have any thought on that, Mark?
Yeah. So what we did with the 45 is we ranked them from 1 to 45. So we determined as a leadership group of the organization, incredibly experienced group, many of them 20 years plus. They knew what number 1 was. They knew what number 2 was. They knew number 3. So we ranked the metrics. And from there, we narrowed it to those 5 and made those 5 significant, and everything changed. We also knew within that group the behaviors that drove those metrics. They were focused on too many things, and that happens today. If you're focused on 45 things, drop everything and start over. Figure out what the top 5 are. Everything will change. Understand the behaviors that equal the top 5, but everything will change.
Yeah. Yeah. And that just gives you clarity. So when you're building your scorecards, your trackers, whatever you use in your business, when you're building that, that's really the foundation of those, of the expectations and the priorities there is that scorecard. That's really the foundation of it.
Well, the other thing we found when we were writing Gapology is that when we went to the top performing group, the top 10%, the team on the sales floor in a retail environment knew what was expected. They could speak to the expectations. In the bottom 10%, the group that was underperforming dramatically, the team did not know the expectations. They could not speak to them. So picture a team that can tell you what the metrics are that are expected of them and what behaviors equal that. Everything changes. So as leaders, that's what you've got to achieve. Total understanding of the expectations, total understanding by the team of the behaviors that equal that. And once you have that, you become incredibly powerful and able to achieve things that, you wouldn't have thought of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mark, can you talk a little bit about then that scorecard feature then? So, keeping score, what is your normal cadence process that you use?
Yeah. So you've got to keep score, number 1. Number 2, you've got to keep the number of metrics that you measure narrow. So rank them. 5 is like a maximum number by role. It may vary by role. It may be 3, it could be 4, it could be 5. Understand then the impact of those metrics on the bottom line, on the big result, and understand the behaviors that equal those metrics. Once you're there, you are way ahead. Everything starts coming together. You can literally visit a community property, whatever you operate, and understand what's right, what's wrong incredibly quickly and make changes and exceed results in a rapid fashion. I don't know if that answers your question, but the top 5 is an absolute maximum. Many of the top organizations we work with only focus on 3. They have 3 metrics. They understand the behavior of those 3 metrics. They drive those. That works as well. So it depends on what you're doing, but I wouldn't go over 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you're actually publishing those results, what does that look like in your world?
It's a great question. So the most successful organizations publish them predictably.
Mm-hmm.
So let me explain. So I know that on Monday, my performance is going to be displayed in front of the company for the previous week. Wow. Okay. That affects my behavior. So in whatever you do in terms of publishing results, it needs to be predictable. Ideally, it's weekly. from the organizations we've worked with, it then is monthly, it then is quarterly. Mm-hmm. So it has those, but weekly is always coming. And what weekly does is it changes the results during the week. It changes the behavior during the week. I assume you could do daily. I don't know if daily is effective in your business, but weekly, monthly, and quarterly seem to work. And everyone on the team needs to know that their results will be published every week. Yeah. Think about that and how that affects behavior. What if you're on the LA Dodgers and the scoreboard's up there in front of you? What happens when you hit a home run? Does it hit the scoreboard? Yeah, it's in front of 30, 40, 50,000 people instantly. So you want to create an environment where performance matters, results matter, and they are published. The other thing that does for you as a leader, it allows you to go to the top performers, have them explain to you how they achieve that, and you can share that with the entire organization and move everyone forward. Move everyone forward.
Yep. Yeah, so I think there's a couple of key things there that I want to focus on. So a lot of times when people think about accountability, they think, oh man, I don't want to hold my team accountable. I'll feel bad, or I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings and those kinds of things. What I will say about that is that your top performers want that. They crave that recognition. They crave that acknowledgement of their success. And if you're not publishing that, if you're not giving them that sort of reward, you'll actually damage the culture for them and possibly their level of engagement. Now, for your bottom performers, they certainly don't want their numbers necessarily posted, and it can be a motivator of sorts there as well. But it is an incredibly important thing. So I would highly encourage our listeners not to think about it as from a negative standpoint. Think about how positive actually doing this can actually be.
Well, and in an environment where you publish the results and you understand the behaviors that equal that, many of those bottom performers, and we've seen it over and over again, can become top performers. So you create an environment where the bottom performers know how to get to the top. Mm-hmm. Think about that. The bottom performers know how to get to the top. Mm-hmm. And that changes everything. And that moves the organization forward dramatically. So imagine if your bottom performers were all performing at the top level, how the entire organization would benefit. Mm-hmm. So you want that out there. Yeah. And we've seen examples where that happens. The predictability of scoring metrics, though, is a big deal. So many of you do not publish the metrics every Monday. I'm making up the date, whatever. You've got to do that because it affects the behavior of the team. Mm-hmm. If they know the numbers are coming out on Monday and their name is going to be next to the numbers for the week, it affects their behavior all week long, all month long, whatever time frame you're looking at. The shorter the time frame, the better, because you can change the results. But this is of great significance. Brian and I came from the retail world, so we had significant daily results, and so weekly was easy for us. So it will depend on what you do, but let them know that the results will be published on September 1st, and it affects the behavior of the team from now until September 1st. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing, and you touched on this earlier, is that this gives you then the ability then to investigate what created those results, whether good or bad. So it gives you that evidence of those behaviors. So you can go to their top performers and ask them what they did. And then you take that and you use that to coach and train and teach the rest of your crew.
Yeah, I was talking to a leader today that took over a underperforming market. And she was in that market today, the underperforming market. And I asked, what are you seeing from a behavior standpoint? And she said the behaviors are not in place. So literally the metrics are not there. They're underperformers because the behaviors are not in place. So she would view that as within the next 30 to 90 days, the behaviors will be in place. That's the focus. And the metrics will therefore follow.
Mm-hmm. Right. What do you think about as far as celebration, that kind of thing? You know, the recognition piece of it.
Yeah, I think it's cultural it creates a culture to celebrate great results and to do that again on a predictable time frame every Monday, whatever your time frame is. And that makes others want to join that and be recognized in that. And we've seen so many examples of underperformers becoming top performers. Underperformers are often the result of lack of leadership above them.
Yep.
So look in the mirror, leaders. If you have an underperformer, it's often about you. Mm-hmm. And when you change your behavior and teach them the behaviors that equal the top results, everything changes. So, but the key here is the predictability of result communication. How often will results be communicated? You want to be very predictable in that, and the team needs to know that. When a batter steps to the plate in the major leagues and they hit a home run, it shows up on the scoreboard in that moment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw Boston Red Sox hit 4 home runs yesterday against the Dodgers. I watched each one of them. But they were in Dodger Stadium, so it wasn't as exciting as had they been at home. Yeah. But they won the game. Okay. But so your team needs to know the time frames because it affects their behavior. We literally structured in many cases what a week looks like for the leaders. We structured it. We said Monday is this, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are meeting free, no meetings allowed. Friday is this. And we created a weekly structure that would produce the results that we needed. And you need to look at your business and do that from that standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's genius. And I will tell you, most companies don't do that out there, where they actually say, all right, this is business time. Let's get to work.
We do not do meetings Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in the world we were in.
Right.
Because it meant that we were out there changing behaviors.
Yeah.
We can't be in meetings.
Yeah. Or on Saturday or Sunday. That was when we were actually selling. So happened to set that up for success. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to determine how it works for your business. Right. But predictability of that is key.
Yeah, for sure. So as far as, some of the bigger celebratory things, I think there's a lot of different things that you can do. But I think follow-up is really the key piece here. So you have your expectations and priorities. You set that. You've kept score. You've got your great scorecard. What do you do with all that information? If you don't take that then and do some sort of follow-up piece. So your underperformers, are you providing that coaching, that training, that teaching? Are you doing some of those things? Your top performers, are you doing those big recognition things for the big wins, smaller recognition things for the smaller wins? Are you doing that follow-up piece? And I think that's the part that, if you do all those things up front, that's great. But if you don't do that follow-up piece, it doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah. So again, the point I would emphasize with the group out there is we have found many cases where the bottom performer was the top performer. Mm-hmm. And we just didn't know that. And we as leaders had failed them. So again, carry the mirror and understand that. Make sure they understand everything we've just talked about. And new people can often fall to the bottom because we haven't done a great job of helping them understand how to get there.
Yeah.
The other big thing that you're talking about is we knew in a very successful organization that we knew what the year-end celebration was about. Can I talk about that now?
Sure, yeah.
So we knew what the year-end celebration would be about. So that affected my behavior every second of every day. And I knew that I wanted to be on that stage at year end. And I knew what the results would have to be and what I would have to do to get there. And it affected me greatly because I wanted to be on that stage. That may be arrogance, I don't know. It may have been about my team, but did I make it to the stage ever, Brian?
Yeah, a few times.
Yeah. So I made it to that stage because I knew the stage was coming. I knew that in Las Vegas, we were going to celebrate the regional manager of the year or whatever role I was in at the time. And that affected me. And so by making results transparent and making it cultural by saying, hey, at the end of the year, we're going to celebrate these things, it affected my behavior. And it was of great significance. And because my behavior was affected, I helped others and others and others. And does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And the beautiful thing that happened after that was the fact then that you took that recognition and trickled that down to everybody on your team and supported them and praised them. I just remember that was always part of that is, hey, team, look what we did as a group. And I think within whatever organization you're in, look at whatever your successes and the downstream impact of that and how that's actually changing lives and making a difference in your business and all the teams that work for you.
Yeah, it's amazing. So we create the success of our team in their future.
Yes.
And many of these things will do that. I think about some of the leaders that I've worked for that affected my behavior and affected my success. And it's rather dramatic. So leaders, do not underestimate your impact on the team.
Yeah.
And your impact can be both positive or negative. Your call.
Yeah, for sure.
And it works both ways. So what if everyone that works for you today becomes incredibly successful in the future? How does that reflect on you? Greatly.
Yeah,
greatly. And it is very true that we as leaders have an impact on the team.
Yep. And at some point in this, we do need to carry that mirror and we need to look at ourselves and what we're doing. At some point, we do need to transfer ownership to the team member. What are some things that you would recommend there?
Yeah. So when they understand the behaviors that equal the metric, that's a big deal. We need a T-shirt that says that.
Yeah.
So when they understand the behaviors that equal the metric, and you've spent time with them on the behaviors that equal the metric, and they can't achieve that, they can't be on the team. So it's okay to terminate people, to write them up, etc. But trust me when I tell you that many of the underperformers were top performers once they understand the behaviors that equal the metric. And are you as a leader clear on the behaviors that equal the metrics that you're desiring? That's such a big deal. It's such a Gapology thing. You've got to know the behaviors of the team that create that metric.
Yep. And I think in our workshops, I don't think there's anything that's more important that people walk away with, that they've communicated to us is yes, I need to own that. I need to own these steps. That's usually the biggest aha that people get. And this accountability piece is really part of that.
Yeah, it's how you create accountability. Don't give up on underperformers though.
Yep.
again, many times we've seen that they can rise to the occasion. They simply have been under-led. And that changes everything. Mm-hmm. The other thing that we did, we found within a given set of metrics, within a given set of behaviors, that there were mentors. There were people that could perform at an incredibly high level. And we used them to mentor others in the behaviors that created the metrics. That not only drove the underperformers to a higher level of performance, but it helped develop the mentors to another level where they would eventually be the leaders of the organization. Mm-hmm. Many of them developed, to be the next level and the next level, et cetera. So be looking for mentors that represent the behaviors that you're looking for within your organization, because they have huge potential if that's what they're going for. Mm-hmm. And it can definitely work.
Yeah. When we talk about this culture that we keep mentioning, that is a key piece, is that you have people that are your advocates that carry this stuff forward, and mentors are a great way to do that. In fact, we have our Gapology Ambassador program that we train internal team members, often learning and development people within organizations, about Gapology and how to sort of teach it and reinforce it and so forth. And they're a great example of what you can do to actually create a culture. In fact, one of our past guests that we had, Chet Enton, was a past guest. He established that in his organization that he works in, established that ambassador program. And they took off with, like wildfire. And it really did create that cultural change that they were looking for.
Yeah, that is a great significance. Mm-hmm. So look for people in the organization that can mentor and teach and coach. And it can affect things greatly. Mm-hmm. Once you as a leader are clear on the behavior that equals the metric, everything changes. We have found many leaders over the years that do not know the behavior or behaviors that equal the metric. Mm-hmm. So you're looking for a 10.0, whatever. What are the behaviors that equal 10.0? You have to know that, and you have to create an environment where that happens time after time after time after time. Yeah. It changes everything. The other thing that we've used there is the habit ladder. So in Gapology, we speak to the habit ladder, and the habit ladder has gone worldwide. It's an incredibly successful, simple tool, a 5-step tool where you communicate what's expected, new process, whatever it may be. You then verify the understanding of the team. Most leaders fail at that. They assume because it was communicated, step 1, that step 2 happened. They do not verify. Number 3, they skip totally, and that is to ask for agreement and commitment to that process, whatever it may be. They then may miss on step 4, which is practice and feedback on that, and that creates habit. So if you're looking at organizations that have incredible habit over and over again, In-N-Out Burger comes to mind. I eat there every week, Brian. Chick-fil-A too. Mm-hmm. They have this in place. And again, the habit ladder for many organizations changes literally everything. When they have it in place, when they believe in it, when they make it the background, of everything they do, everything changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's an important tool and one that we've spoken about on the podcast a few times. And I think revisiting it for a lot of different areas of your business, not just training and development, that's kind of the no-brainer piece of it, but it fits in everywhere. When you're looking at trying to create this culture of accountability, those levels matter. So look at that. I think that's could be a powerful tool in your arsenal.
Yeah. The last thing I would throw in there is that in the top performing group, the leaders that we looked at for Gapology that were outperforming the rest, they had consistent follow-up. They were aware of everything that we just talked about. They knew the behaviors were in place or were not in place. They knew that the results were a reflection of the behaviors, and they had a consistent follow-up to drive those forward. And that changed everything. Mm-hmm. And you have to be very careful in a remote environment where you're not, one-on-one with people on how you measure that. You've got to figure that out. But so it may have become more difficult in recent years, but that consistent follow-up is a leader's tool that they own, and they've got to really leverage that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Well, I think that's probably a good place to leave it. So we've left everybody with some great tips. We do recommend going back to pick up Gapology for those of you who have it. Read through that section. We've expanded it with the 15th anniversary edition. There's some more detail in there as well. So we invite you to do that, and you can go to our website to find out all the details on that. But if you do have questions or comments or anything, feel free to reach out to us. contact@gapology.org is our email. That's contact@gapology.org, and we'd love to have a conversation with you. But thank you, Mark.
Happy birthday, Danielle.
Yeah. Happy birthday. All right. Well, we'll talk to you
everyone
next time. All right. Thanks much. Bye-bye. All right. That'll do it from here. For more information on Gapology or any of our other leadership books or our speaking events, head on over to gapology.org for all the details. Everyone have a fantastic week. We'll talk to you soon.